Welcome back, everyone! My name is Jesse, and today, well, you may be wondering, Jesse, what are you doing? There's no cinematic to talk about, there's no analysis. Where's your guest host? Where's the podcast? Where's the lore video? This is none of those things. This is something, potentially, the start of something very new and very exciting. Or, you'll never see it happen again. You guys will decide at the end of this. I'll decide, one of us will decide. I haven't decided who is going to decide, but this may be a thing. And if it is a thing, Lost Codex Legends? Does that sound, how does that sound? That sounds pretty good, right? Right? I like it. Doesn't matter what you think. Today's hot topic that we're going to talk about is actually just that, hot topic. Rathian himself. A lot of people have been wondering, ever since that new sexy model came out for 8.2.5 PTR, who is he? What's he about? I didn't play Mists. I don't know his story. I did play Mists for the record. And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to dive into a little bit of his backstory, a little bit of his character and personality, and what he may be up to in the future, in the close future. So here's, for those of you who don't know, here's a little quick history on our boy Rathian. Now, Rathian's origins start with a red dragon by the name of Rheastraza. Now, Rheastraza and a gnome by the name of Dr. Hieronymus Blam. What a name. What an awesome name. Work together, and they want to free the corruption from the Black Dragonflight, and that's not an easy task. And so they conduct some experiments. We find out that Rheastraza, before we realize that she's a dragon, has a black dragon captive, kind of forcing her to lay eggs. Kind of dark, a little bit of a darker start there. And with the use of a Titan device called Eye of the Watchers, this device purifies the old god corruption from a dead whelp, a random black dragon egg, and an egg taken from the black dragon I just mentioned. Her name is Nyxandra. Now, Nyxandra, hope I'm pronouncing that right, is a sister to Onyxia. And together, it's not explained how, but this device purifies both eggs and the dead whelp, and that forms into a purified black dragon egg. So already Rathian's got a little bit of a weird start, kind of like a Frankenstein start, but that's okay. That's all right. We're gonna skip ahead. The Black Dragons try to hunt down Rheastraza and the egg. They end up killing Rheastraza. Deathwing himself kills her, but the egg is saved and sent to the Vermilion Sanctuary up in Twilight's Highlands, where the egg is kept for a couple months during Cataclysm. Towards the end of Cataclysm, the egg is stolen, and we learn that it's stolen from Ravenhold rogues. Rogue players, with the help of the Wormrest Accord, are sent to recover the egg from Ravenhold, and you find that the egg has hatched. And this is where we meet Rathian for the first time. Now, most players, if you didn't play a rogue, chances are you didn't get to meet Rathian until Mists of Pandaria. But for those of you who played rogues during Cataclysm, Rathian has a really interesting questline in which you help him rid the world of all other black dragons. He knows that he is a one-of-a-kind situation, so he thinks. He knows that everyone else, that is his siblings, cousins, whatever, they're all corrupted, and so he sends you, an assassin, to start killing all these other black dragons. And Rathian is the only black dragon that he knows of at the end of the questline. Mists of Pandaria comes around, and we meet Rathian up in the Tavern of the Mists, and he's sort of like this secretive, sort of spy master character with some agents all around, and you find out that he's invested in the Alliance and Horde war, but not for profit, not for personal gain. He finds it's a waste, it's a distraction, and it's a threat because the Burning Legion is coming, and we're too busy killing each other to realize that. So he has a goal that he wants to chase. He's kind of vague, but he helps you. Doesn't matter your faction. He helps the Alliance and he helps the Horde. I'm really speeding through Mists of Pandaria here. When the factions land in Landfall in 5.1, he helps both sides. And then after Garrosh dropkicks Anduin, and Anduin's recovering up in the Tavern of the Mists, that's where Rathian meets Anduin for the first time. And because of that encounter, sparked thousands of fanfictions and Tumblr art and everything, and sparked a really cool relationship between Rathian and the Prince of Stormwind at the time. Little fact that I forgot about that quest line, during this quest, Rathian and Anduin are playing a Pandaran board game called, forgive the pronunciation, Ji Hui, and in Ji Hui, both sides are meant to win, which Rathian finds ridiculous. It's a stupid game. Why play? And the philosophy of the game is if one side is clearing the board faster or winning, the other side is supposed to surrender. And it's considered a dishonorable move for one side to absolutely clear the other player's board entirely. Even though it's technically a win, it's considered dishonorable. It's not considered proper in this game. And if you and your opposing player have the same amount of pieces on the board at the end of the game, it's considered a perfect, honorable win. And Rathian is confused about this. Now, this is not winning and having both sides win. This is a theme that will come to play later on. But we learn that Rathian becomes fascinated with Lei Shen and the Thunder King, and Anduin finds him not fascinating at all. And Rathian goes on to learn about the Mogu and Keeper Ra Den and what the Mogu's purpose was after the Titans. A lot of the Chronicle lore Rathian learns back in the day. Rathian has the player bring him the heart of Lei Shen after we go and kill the Thunder King. We bring him the heart, and he pulls a Khaleesi and he eats the heart, much to Anduin's disgust. And he has this moment where he is overcome by this vision in his head, and he sees a million perfect worlds, and then he loses himself for a moment, and we hear another voice. It's not his. I believe it's Amun Thul talking through him, but it could be any of the Titans. And the voice says, "We have fallen. We must rebuild the fallen Titan. Do not forget." In which then he comes back to his senses, and he forgets all of it, or so he claims. Similar event happened involving Lei Shen and Keeper Ra back in the day, when Lei Shen entered the lowest vaults in Pandaria and found Keeper Ra languishing in his doubts and his depression about learning that the Titans were dead. Ra touches Lei Shen on the head and shows him this vision. And so in the same way, Rathian is given a vision here, and I thought that was pretty important for Mists of Pandaria. Rathian continues to dabble in the faction war. A bunch of stuff happens with the Cloak of Timeless Isle, and we find out that he's siding with Garrosh. He was actually banking on the Horde to win until the Horde's turn on Garrosh, until he says half the Horde turned on Garrosh. He then swapped sides. A lot of Horde players were pissed off at the end of the questline, because at the very end, after you defeat Garrosh, you learn Rathian was actually back in the Alliance. He was back in the Horde. Garrosh lost support. Rathian changed his support for Varian. And when Rathian learns that Varian not only spared the Horde and didn't absorb them into the Alliance, but actually offered them a chance at mercy and a second chance, Rathian is pissed. He wanted this super army, this super faction for the Burning Legion, and that didn't happen. Things get weird with Rathian after this. We know he's at the trial for Garrosh Hellscream and continues to develop his friendship with Anduin. They have lunch together, they talk, and the grand reveal at the end of the book is when Rathian is helping orchestrate Garrosh's escape with Kairos to alternate Draenor. We all thought Rathian was going to show up in Warlords, and he kind of did. He was present in Admiral Taylor's garrison before it fell to cultists. That's not important. And we know he was at Khadgar's tower briefly. Burning Legion shows up, and the dude's nowhere to be found. He's wandering Azeroth, according to a BlizzCon panel. And we meet him during the Death of Chromie scenario, which is... Alright. Now, he's at the Black Dragonflight Shrine, which to us means nothing at the time, but what if it did mean something? What if he was up to something? Well, we know he was up to something. We're going to get there in just a second. And then Battle for Azeroth, Rathian pops up again. We bring a Black Dragon scale from the Island Expeditions. We bring it to him, or we try to. His agent intercepts us and tells us that Rathian is looking for other Black Dragons. Turns out the Rogue quest line was totally... well, he didn't know about all those extra Black Dragons, I guess. He was like 2 hours old. Give him a break. Rathian is looking for other Black Dragons to interrogate to locate the Dragon Isles. The first time the Dragon Isles is ever mentioned in lore, which is important. So, what has Rathian been doing? Well, and by the way, this next part, that was Rathian's history. You now know Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and the last 3 expansions in which he appeared only once through each expansion. This next part is spoilers for 8.2.5. So if you don't want to be spoiled on Rathian's storyline and what's happening, don't watch this next part. So we learn that Ebonhorn, another black dragon that Rathian did not know about, who is also free of corruption, is at risk of corruption because N'Zoth is now free. And we're sent to find Rathian to help him. We go to the Tavern in the Mists, the very first place that most players meet Rathian, and we find left and right his lieutenants. And they're waiting. Rathian predicts our arrival, and he leaves us a diary page, or leaves with them a diary page when we read it. And it turns out Rathian has actually been visiting a couple libraries over the last couple years. He's, in this particular diary, he references the Shendralar Library, in which case he's